Professor Wergeles here, continuing on with the audio-visual lecture. Now, it's important to check if magnitude's length is equal to the number of bands, because it is possible that the length will be less than 4, and if it's less than 4, then we're going to be out of bounds. So phases 3 will get an array out of bounds error and your program will crash. So it's not guaranteed that magnitudes will always be equal to the number of bands. So that's why I have this if statement here. So we only want it to run if that is the assumption. Now, instead of looking at the console, we can go ahead and start updating some of these text. If you look up above, all the text is magnitude text 1 or phases text 1. So let's go ahead and update the UI and start putting this information on the display. So we're going to first start with the magnitude. So I'll say magnitude text 1. We're going to do a set text, and we're going to set that equal to, we need to make sure it's a string. So if I just put phases 0 here, okay, we're going to have an issue. It may convert for us, but we want to ensure, you'll see here, float cannot be converted to string. So we can convert that. So I'll say float, call the float class. They have a toString method, which is static. That's why I'm referencing the class. So then I'm going to convert that to a string. Now you'll see here I'm calling phases, but I'm updating the magnitude text. So make sure this is correct. This is going to be magnitudes 0. Now I can do this for all of them. So I'm going to copy this line of code. I'm going to do this for all of them. So I'm going to paste it 3 times. And then here I'm going to change the index as well as the text ID number. Okay, so if I run this, you'll see I hard-coded one of the songs. That way running it's really easy. I can just click run, play, and I can see the updates on the UI. Okay, so if I run this, now you'll see magnitudes on the display. It looks like we need a little bit more space, so we can update that. But let's go ahead and write the other one. So I can say phase text 1. We're going to call set text. We need to convert float to a string. So I'm going to call the toString method with phases 0. Okay, I'm going to paste that 3 times, update the index, come back to the display. It looks like we need a little bit more space. So I can just move these text objects, give it a little bit more space. For the challenge, you can update the display as you see fit. So if you think something needs to be updated, go ahead and update. So I'm going to space these out just a little bit. Make sure you save the display, and then I'm going to run it again so we can see the actual implementation, the actual numbers. Okay, so now if I play, you can see the numbers better. Now if I pause at a particular time, you'll see the range is usually going to be from 0 to -60 up above, and you'll see the bottom numbers are going to be from -pi to +pi. Okay, so here's 2.0. You'll see if I pause, here's -60, so that's the max. -60 will mean it's not being activated. Okay, you'll see the numbers are coming in. And you'll see the lower frequencies, the lower decibels are activated more. So let's get some elements moving on the interface. So I got some numbers here. We're getting in inputs. Let's update the UI. So I can say for ellipse 1, I'm first just going to change the radius. So let's change the radius X, and let's just put magnitudes directly. So we'll put magnitudes 0. Okay, I'm going to change the X. I'm going to copy this. I'm also going to change the Y. So I'm going to change both radiuses to magnitude 0. Now magnitude 0 is a lower frequency, which is going to be activated more. So we should see some movement here. So if I run the program, we'll look at ellipse number 1, which is the blue, and you'll see it disappears. Now what's happening here? Here is my value that I'm getting, -34. So I'm trying to set the radius of a circle to a negative value, and the circle disappears. Okay, so that's not going to work. The radius should be from 0 to some positive number. And if it's 0, it's going to disappear. So definitely a negative value will disappear. So we know magnitudes is going to be from 0 to -60. It's going to be from 0 to -60, and especially if you look at the Java doc, you'll see the range for those numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a magnitude offset. So you'll see it's 70. So if the decibel is not being activated, the magnitude will be -60, and the value will be 10. If it's being activated, then it's going to increase in size. So if I do a show Java doc and I go to the audio spectrum listener, you'll see here the sensitivity is -60. So it's going to go from 0 to -60. That is for the magnitudes. And you can see the different values here. So it specifies what they are. If I look at the actual values, okay, it's from 0 to -60. So make sure you're reading the Java docs for this. That way you can understand what's happening. And that's why I set my magnitude offset to 70. That way we never get a negative value. So here I'm going to say, add my magnitude offset plus the actual magnitudes coming in. That way I never have a negative value. The smallest value I will have will be 10. And then it will go to 0. So if it's completely activated, it will be 0. So the size here will be 70. So it's going to go from 70 to 10 because magnitudes is 0 to -60. So 70 plus 0 will be 70. 70 plus -60 will be 10. So now let's look at the first circle. If I play, now you'll see some movement there. And the circle will not disappear. So this is the first step to creating my visualizer. Now that we got a formula to work, let's apply this on all the ellipses. So I'm going to copy this. That's going to be ellipse 2, ellipse 3, and ellipse 4. So I'm going to change these. I'm also going to change the index. Array start at 0, so that's going to be 4. This is going to be 3. This is going to be 2. And 1 will be 0. So now that we've updated this, let's see what's happening on the display. Okay, once I play the song, you'll see the high frequencies are not being activated much, but there's still something happening. The lower frequencies are being activated a lot. Here's the mids. Here's the high frequencies. Okay, so you can still see some action, but definitely the high frequencies are not being activated as much. And you'll see that in a normal visualizer as well. So if you see a normal visualizer, they'll have the bars going all the way across, and usually you'll see the lows and mids being activated a lot and the really, really high frequencies not being activated much. So that's my first algorithm to change the radius. Let's look at some more algorithms that will help you implement the challenge. Stick with Professor Wergeles. We'll see you in the next video.